Hey guys, what's up? My name is RoxNHD and welcome to a brand new video. It's been quite a while since I've uploaded a video, but I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to make a scripted video and talk a little bit about one of my favourite games at the moment, Guild Wars 2. Guild Wars 2 is without a doubt the most interesting, complex and downright entertaining MMO I have and will ever play. It's extremely complex, yet it's easy to pick up in a small amount of time. It's long, yet it never feels like a grind, and its latest expansion is dropping on the 22nd of September. So this video is going to be covering why now is the best time to hop in and either get back into or try out Guild Wars 2. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, I've owned Guild Wars 2 for a very long time. In fact, my main character is about 3 years old, I think last week or so. And I've had even more characters than that, and they have been much older. But unfortunately, they've been deleted. I don't really play them anymore. It's a game that's stuck with me for years, and while I haven't played it for 3 years on the trot, it's definitely a game that I've got my money's worth from. Now, in this video, I want to break down exactly why I've been coming back to Guild Wars 2 and why you should get into it. Or like I said, pick it up again. Now, this section is going to cover the storyline for Guild Wars 2, and Guild Wars 2 is just this immense game. If I recall correctly, there are 8 episodes for the storyline, each with many chapters. I believe the last one has something like 11 chapters, and don't forget about the, the Living World content, which has 3 seasons, each have their own addition onto the storyline, which of course builds up to the next expansion called Path of Fire. Each story, each mission has a unique, branching storyline with awesome voice dialogue. I think pretty much all of it, if not all of it, is well voice acted with really good quality there. And characters that you can attach to, and they have their own personalities. It's really good and really well done. Albeit to a lesser degree as some things, as maybe, I don't know, Game of Thrones, for example. But it is still remarkably well done for a game which is extremely old, a franchise which is quite old as well. When you start the game, you'll choose your general path. For example, you might choose to be a human, and use dignity to overcome any issues you have. You're raised by the peasantry, and maybe you worship, I don't know, the god of war, Balthazar. There are many different options to choose from here, and each of the 5 playable races has different ones to choose from. And without too many spoilers, the general story is you start as a sort of regular dude or dudess, and then you sort of work your way up, join organizations and various other groups, and work your way up the command structure. But it's not done in a way that's sort of like, oh, here's a thing, now you've got to grind incessantly and get up to that high rank like some other games. And the storyline is really long, and it will take you like most of the way to the max level, which is level 80. But of course, there are unfortunately certain limitations placed on a free player, and by the way, this game is, at its core, mostly free. So be aware of things like the wiki says right here, starter maps only until the character reaches level 10, and in Lion's Arch, which is like this sort of economic hub, Lion's Arch is unlocked at level 35. And of course there's other stuff there, you know, it prohibits you from going there, and you have to purchase an expansion, which is basically like purchasing the main game and the expansion, which brings me on to my next point. The help desk says that, do I need to buy a copy of the core Guild Wars 2 game to play the expansion? The answer to that is no. The core game, Guild Wars 2, is explicitly free to play, or at least play for free. And you can purchase an expansion to upgrade your Guild Wars 2 account, so that's any of the expansions, Heart of Thorns, or the upcoming one, Path of Fire. And you get a max level boost, and you also get the core experience, is what I'm taking from that. So you get an upgrade with an expansion, so Path of Fire is 26 quid right now for the standard version. And you get the core game at no extra cost. And to put this into perspective, I paid like 45 quid for the game back when it was released, and I've paid for the expansions as well. So I've, in retrospect, sunk quite a bit of money into this game, but I have not wasted a single dime. And although it might feel like, oh, but you haven't played this game for such a long time, and you haven't gotten all these max level characters and everything. I personally believe that where I am right now with these characters, like you're seeing in the background here, I believe, if I'm doing this right in post-processing, my account, I guess, because this sort of progression does go across your accounts, which is kind of nice in some aspects. So, my account is only level 10 mastery, right? In the Heart of Thorns Meguma area. And while it's only level 10, that sort of shows that I haven't put much time into it. I think I've definitely got my money's worth from the content that the team have put out. So that is all of the storyline. Now, in terms of gameplay is concerned, it's pretty MMO-like in terms of its general structure, but it has a very important point. The Guild Wars 2 gameplay, especially the storyline, eliminates backtracking and has no content that feels like hastily compiled filler or just having side quests for the sake of side quests. There are 9 playable classes, which is 8 if you don't have the Heart of Thorns expansion, and both of them add new ways to sort of play the same classes, called elite specializations. I'm just going to refer to them nowadays as E-specs. E-specs are awesome ways to change the game if you're looking for something new to play, but you don't want to start from scratch. And that's something that define the game and separate it from other MMOs of the same sort of caliber. There are multiple types of abilities and professions that do have their own position on the Triangle of Love, which is sort of the utility and support and damage and tank and all that sort of stuff. However, with the E-specs, it's always changing, and each class, depending on the expansion, will be in a different place on the triangle. For instance, a Necromancer has gone from being a heavily utility-based class in the core game, summoning minions, taking damage, and doing quite a lot of damage to an extent. I mean, Necromancer's always been quite tanky because of its Life Shroud ability, which allows it to basically, when you do damage and when you get kills, you build up Life Essence or Life Force or whatever it's called. And then you can transform into Death Shroud, which gives you a new ability set, and it's a separate health bar and everything, and it's really, really useful, and that makes Necromancer quite tanky in some respects. So it goes from being one that takes a lot of damage to a very high DPS class, if not one of the highest, with the Reaper, which is the Heart of Thorns Necro E-spec. And now it's becoming a quite team-based support character with Path of Fire, and it can basically use its life essence instead of using it for the player's own advantage to the team's advantage by putting life force in the sort of the sands of the desert to create these AoE boons and abilities and stopping enemies and all this sorts of stuff, which is really, really quite useful. Another example of this is Elementalists. Elementalists have always been in the middle of the sort of triangle. They've been good at taking and receiving damage, and also being quite supportive of the team. They can heal and give buffs and everything. They became quite, not defensive, but quite supportive with the magic auras that you get from Heart of Thorns, which is the Tempest Elite spec. And now in Path of Fire they're changing again to become a DPS beast, and here's some content in the background of one of my demo characters playing around. And they're becoming more of a frontline character, and that's really good because Elementalists have always wanted to be a sword and sort of have this sort of imbue your sword with this elemental power and go forward and do other stuff. And that's really quite good, and that's now at the forefront of this class with Path of Fire. All of the Path of Fire E-specs are free to try out for a limited amount of time as part of the Path of Fire demo season, which, of course, Path of Fire releases on the 22nd of September. And you can try that whether you've pre-ordered or not, or even if you have a free account. If you haven't even bought any of the expansions, if you literally just have a free game, you can try this out still by creating a demo account on the character selection screen. There's also a PvP and a World v World. I don't really play PvP too much. I played quite a bit of World v World, but I only really played that for power leveling on my alternate characters, because you get to a certain point on other characters, you want to try out completely different classes, but you still have to start from the beginning. So I always like to level to about level 30, level 40, get a feel for the class, and then do some power leveling. And that sort of links quite well into the main question about gameplay, which is there a grind? Unfortunately, there are some pretty big grinds in the game, such as trying to get Ascended and Legendary gear, which requires thousands of hours sometimes. The worst being the Precursor drop levels. The Precursor drop levels are just insane. Like, it's literally a needle in a haystack. It's just so bad. But there is some sort of reprieve from this, I guess. The developers have made a reward track in the mastery section, I believe, if I recall correctly, which allows you to craft the precursors instead of getting them from loot drops. And they can literally drop from any character or any any enemy, I guess. The rest of the time, though, it doesn't feel like a grind or a chore, and especially the story and going around in event trains and stuff does not feel like a grind at all. It feels really fun. It feels like you're a part of something bigger, and that is something that all MMOs need to concentrate on. And that pretty much sums up the gameplay. Now, the design in Guild Wars 2 is very critical to the game's success. Bear in mind that some of the content you're seeing in the background, or i.e. most of the content in the background, is using Sweet Effects, which is a post-processing tool. And the game does look better when this is turned on, of course it should do. And some of the graphics in the game, especially the core game, have dated slightly. But as far as I can see, the game still looks really beautiful, especially the actual design and construction of the map. For example, Heart Thorns, which I'll get into in a second. And here's a side-by-side comparison just to show you the Sweet Effects versus the non-Sweet Effects. The difference is quite stark, but at the same time, the original graphics don't look too bad, and that's something which I think going forward is something to consider, especially when Path of Fire comes up soon, and there'll be much better, more updated graphics. The level design is solid, especially when Heart of Thorns has some awesome world spaces, like I was just saying, like you're seeing in the background here. Heart of Thorns and Core both have a great sense of verticality. You can go from the depths of chasms of the world and the seabed of the oceans to the tops of trees and mountains and the canopies and everything. It's just all there for you to access. And it's not as 2D feeling as some of the other games out there. You know, you've got games which literally just have maybe a couple of hills and a bit of ocean to explore, and that's it. But there is a full underwater world space, and it's just brilliant. It really is amazing. And just let's not forget about one of the most important things, and that is the actual, what I like to call non-graphic visuals. And in the actual definition of the word, maybe, okay, that's not true, but anyway, non-graphic visuals is cutscenes and the general aesthetic and the UI, and the sort of pastel and chalk design that they use in the menus especially, and in the storytelling scenes. I'll try and find an example, but if I can't, please do forgive me. And everything just feels awesome, and the game really does have its own unique aesthetic to it, and that is something which a lot of games just sort of either have this kind of flat UI, or they just sort of don't have their own unique personality, and that is definitely something that Guild Wars 2 thrives on, is its own personality and its own graphical design and aesthetic, and that is something that the game should definitely be proud of. Now, this video might sound quite a lot like a review, and in some aspects it has been. That's just to entice new players, and for the old players there are loads of benefits of rejoining the game right now, and try and get in on some of that juicy new action. Some of the things you might have missed while you've been gone: raids. Raids are pretty cool. They're good ways to experience endgame content, and in general just have a different sort of feel to them. They're more fast-paced, they require a lot more skill, and that's definitely something that people should be interested in, is the raids. I personally haven't done any raids, and that's not because I don't enjoy the sort of skill-based content that comes with Guild Wars 2. I just think that sometimes it can be quite hostile, especially when you have new people and experienced people clashing. This isn't just this game, this is every game. You know, you have people, for example, in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, people who are like Silver 1, people who are like, I don't know, maybe Legendary Eagle, and people are going to get salty at the new players, and that is something that does happen. And there are training guilds that you can join, and they help you give experience and sort of build a portfolio of raids to get into. And of course there is pickup gaming, where you can literally just LFG, find a game and go with that. But if you want to play with people, you have to play with a pre-made, as with any other game. And it's just that sort of demeanor that comes with raids that is kind of unfair on new players, I think. And it's not something that should be really what's the word? It's not something that should be ignored, I guess. Another thing that people might be missing in terms of joining the new game, of course, is the new story. Now, Heart of Thorns added great new story, and if you join now, you're just in time for Path of Fire, which is a brand new story that's coming in less than a month. It's coming on the 22nd. Actually, what's the date today? I might be lying. It's 21st, so just over a month it'll be coming out. And it's just... Path of Fire looks amazing, right? So it picks up from where we left off. It continues to improve on the game's core mechanics, as we've seen with the elite specializations and some of the content you've seen in the background. And it continues to be a beacon of hope for the game in the future. And bear in mind, it has been 2 years since Heart of Thorns was released. So a lot has changed in that regard as well. I think we have more events, we have more raids that have come out. I think there was only one raid when Heart of Thorns was originally released. I think there's quite a few now. I don't know how many. I don't really pay attention to raids. And there's all this sort of new stuff, and it looks really good, and it plays really well. And they've continued to, of course, update and balance the game quite a bit, especially with the PvP is concerned. And that is something that everybody should be interested in, is constant improvement of the game and constant enjoyment of everything, and that is just really good. And that will conclude the video, guys. Let me know if there's any questions you have in my Discord server. I have a Discord server. The link is up here on the top of the screen right now, as well as in the description below. There's a hot link, of course, to it, like a quick link as well, which is discord.varaxanhd.me. And you can go ahead, and that will just redirect you straight to it. If not, if you want to use a secure link, it's there, and it's underneath as well. So yeah, if you have any questions, please ask there. Do let me know. And anything else I can help you with, please do let me know in the comment section down below. And that should be it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you get back into this game, or I hope you find this game interesting and think it's something you enjoy. Don't forget, it is free if you want to try it out. And nobody doesn't like a free game, right? That's what I thought. See you later, guys. Take care. Adios.